Marc and Paulette here, the two travelers in Mexico. And today we're going to talk to you about more differences in housing between Mexico and the United States. But I want to start off by saying we're not being critical of the housing in Mexico by any means. We're not complaining. We are just pointing out some differences.
Well, I do complain.
Well, yeah, but we try to delete that out of the videos as much as possible.
It's just frustrating. And you know what? There's probably issues in the United States too with contractors and what have you.
Yeah.
So,
all right, so
let's just clear that up so we don't get no hate comments.
No haters. So the first thing we're going to talk about is rooftops. Very often here in Mexico, you'll see flat roofs, which a lot of times can have a rooftop patio on them, versus the sloped roofs that you usually see in the United States.
And you get a lot of the balconies, like you've seen our upstairs balcony.
Mm-hmm.
That's not as common in the United States, but it's pretty common here in Mexico.
Yeah, like almost all of the rooftops in Mexico are flat, and we do have a lot of neighbors that also have rooftop patios as we do, although I think we use ours much more than just about anybody else here.
And when we bought our house, it was already constructed, so we had no say in what went into it. However, just to let you know, our rooftop is tiled. It's weird, it's like the same tile that they use downstairs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's fine, but it's tiled, which is nice. We didn't have to do anything. There's really not that much upkeep. So that's one thing that you'll find in Mexico a lot is the rooftop balconies for sure.
Yeah.
The next one is not much front yard or backyard area in Mexico. You have a strip of grass area, maybe a tree, or maybe just cement. We have cement.
Yeah.
In the U.S., the front yard, you got a lawn, you got your flowers, you got whatever going on there. Here, not so much. I mean, they do have it, but it's not as common. But you will find it. But it's more common not to have anything but like a little strip of grass.
Yeah.
I think.
In our case, our front yard is our driveway. And
well, we got the little area that's right before it, which we had cemented.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, not much of an area, but a little bit of an area.
Yeah. Number 3, are we done? No? Okay, we'll keep going. All right.
I mean, our backyard is probably...
I can't see it, but you can put a picture.
8 feet deep by, maybe 20 feet wide. Okay, number 3.
Number 3.
Construction material for houses. Basically, we mentioned before that houses here are just basically made out of brick and mortar, and that's used pretty much everywhere in Mexico. The benefit to that is you never really see a structure fire of any kind here, and you do see it sometimes, but that's usually an issue with the propane tank.
Yeah. So. I mean, it's not that common. I think we've been here for 6 years, and there was one that we knew of. I mean, it wasn't in our neighborhood or anything, but we could see the smoke, and when we asked about it, we found out that that's what it was, a propane tank. So one word of caution, I think, is you never really want to fill your propane tank up all the way, and usually the guys that fill it should know that. We never fill ours. We fill it like to 80%. Yeah, that's about all we do, because we don't want to be one of those rare statistics.
No.
Right?
No.
Okay. Number 4?
Number 4. A lot of times there will not be handrails on stairs going up. We had this in Morelia when we lived there in our apartment.
Yeah. There was no rails going up.
Now, it might be more common in some older homes, but it's not always a guarantee in newer homes. Now, granted, the couple of new homes that I've videoed lately have had them, but a lot of times they do not.
Electric outlets sometimes are not grounded or properly grounded. Sometimes to test out to be sure when you're renting or buying a house. We've run into this ourselves.
Yeah, I have a little a ground fault tester that I used, and I plugged it into all of the outlets to make sure that they work fine. And I suggest you guys do that too. And I also suggest that you use power strips with surge protectors when you're plugging in your electronic equipment to them, just in case. But I would also recommend that in the United States as well. Next up, we are going to talk about the water systems here in Mexico. A lot of the houses are gravity-fed water. In other words, the water will get pumped up to the top where maybe the propane tank is for the water heater, and then it's the only pressure you get is just gravity from the water pressure being fed down. Ours, that was one of Paulette's things, that she wanted good water pressure in the house, so we have a different kind of pump that supplies good water pressure all the time.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they'll only have a pump that pumps it up to the top of the house, to the container up there, and then it'll just come down here by gravity. We do not, however, have the Garrafon at the top of our house. Ours is only in our driveway. So that's something to look out for too.
True, because I didn't want weak water when I take a shower or do the dishes. So that was one nice benefit. When we bought this house, it was already there.
Yeah.
However, we've been here for 4 years, and two things. One thing to keep in mind is if your power goes out and you have an electric pump, so will your water, because it won't be pumping anymore.
Yeah.
But we had to, what was it, last year? So after 3 years, we had to replace our water pump. That ran us, we bought it ourselves, and we bought a really good one. That was like $1,000 US dollars. And then we had this plumber that's very good come and do it for us. It didn't take him but 20 minutes maybe. Yeah, and I think he charges maybe $25-30.
Yeah, I believe it was around 500 pesos, which is $25 to $30, depending on the exchange rate.
Right. So that was something I don't think that you should really have to run into that quickly, but unfortunately, we did. So you want to take the next one?
It happens. Cement not sealed properly.
It's what our friend Wayne refers to as cancer on the walls.
Where water gets into the cement through the paint or through a crack in the paint and the sealer, and then it works its way through the cement and eventually comes out between the cement wall and the layer of paint.
And it can do it inside. It's done it inside, and we'll show you some pictures. We've had somebody come and fix it a couple of times now, but it unfortunately it keeps reoccurring. It's like the wall gets kind of like crepey. What do I have here?
It just bubbles up.
Yeah, it like bubbles. Is what it does.
And so that is kind of an ongoing maintenance thing that you'll probably always have to deal with. Our house was worse in the beginning when we first bought it. We've had some repair work done, and since then it's been better, but it's still something we always have to keep an eye on.
I mean, we have it down here. We have it down in our living room area on the wall. We have it in our guest bedroom on the wall. We have a little bit in our bedroom. We have a slider in our room. We have it there. We have it in our office. We have it in all the rooms. I mean, it's not out of control, but it's just frustrating. It's just an ongoing maintenance thing, I think because of the moisture and whatever from Mexico. It's just one of those things.
But how it helps in other ways, though, because we don't have like termite issues or anything here, obviously, because there's no wood in the house. So there are some.
That's another thing I talked about. He's going too far. But okay. Window frames. Sliding windows do not, first of all, always have screens. Not always sealed correctly either. The rubber seals, we noticed in a few of ours, are done incorrectly. There's kind of like a gap. I was showing Mark the other day, like where it was bubbling by the wall, and the trim was kind of like pulling away from the wall. So it's just, that's another thing. We'll talk about that as we go on, because I've got that in here too. So anyhow, it's, what do I say? The seals we've noticed in a few of ours are not done correctly and cause the same issue with the water leak and the bubbling and all that other stuff that we were saying.
Okay.
I'm gonna go down a little bit.
Next up?
Really no inspections done.
Yeah.
Like in the US, no one oversees the work being done by the workers or inspections.
Yeah. The only time I think it's overseen is when the contractor's supervisor come and checks the work. Now, someone correct me if we're wrong here, but we have never seen any like inspections on any new homes that we see going up here.
Yeah, maybe there's some kind of inspection company, but I was raising my hand if I disagree or whatever, a comment, because we had like that supervisor guy that came by. He didn't do anything.
But he worked for the contractor though.
Right, he worked for the contractor, but I had to point everything out to him that needed to be fixed because it was like, blind eyes. He didn't. So, if they do have a supervisor for the person that's building the home, good luck on that one. All right, next, number 10, I'll take it. Countertops in the kitchen and bathrooms are Formica a lot of times. Though Mark and I've seen in new houses, because he just did the video on some new ones, and he said that those were stone.
Stone, yeah.
Stone, not granite, like a stone?
Well, granite is stone. Right, yeah, granite.
Okay. Before we bought our house, we looked at like 32 different houses. And most of them, well, I would say some of them had tile, like the square tiles in the kitchen that weren't in good shape. But they had the tile, and then some of them had the Formica countertops in the bathrooms and in the kitchens. So, and ours, when we bought our house, it was from Formica too. And the corner piece where it comes together like this was just done really crappy. So I told the contractor, because we did a walkthrough and stuff, and I told the contractor, and I told him, look, I'll pay the difference to have you guys install granite. I don't want this stuff because it looked bad.
Yeah.
So we did, and he charged us, it was a reasonable amount that he charged us. I remember that. He gave us quotes for everything that we wanted upgraded or added or whatever after we bought the house.
Yeah.
So
and they did do a pretty good job with the granite, I must say.
Yeah, they did a pretty good job.
All right.
Although they busted the glass on my stove installing it. Remember that?
Yeah.
They did. I don't know, I wasn't down here, Mark and I were upstairs or something, and there was several guys in here putting the countertops on, and I heard this crash. And I think you came down first, and you said, oh, you don't want to come downstairs, something like that. And what they did is, my stove has glass in the front of it, and they somehow busted it out, but they did take care of it and replace the glass.
I think they were lifting the stove into place inappropriately and not grabbing the handle correctly or something.
I don't know what happened. And then the granite on part of my wall going into my laundry area, there was like big chips, big gouges in my wall, and they had to fix that too. But the expression, shit happens, right? But they fixed it, so no worries there. But, you can't always be that type A personality like I am. It's really hard when stuff like that happens. You just gotta have a glass of wine, chill. Okay, next. I think that's it, right? Oh no, this one.
Central heat and air.
Yeah.
So Central heat and air.
Hair?
Yeah, not hair. Hair exists. Central heat and air doesn't really exist. We don't have, anything in our house. And our house stays pretty cool during the summer. It gets cold in the winter, but we just layer up.
Like right now, it's 66.
Yeah.
And it's really, it's kind of windy today, but usually our rooftop has the nicest weather, the sun, and it's wonderful. And Mark has his coffee and goes out there with the dogs. And it's probably like the nicest area, the warmest area too. But it's 66 right now inside our house. I'm not sure what the temperature is outside.
Yeah.
And see, Mark, he's got his sweatshirt on. I got my 2 Travelers tank top on today, so I'm doing okay.
Not a lot, but I would say a fair amount of people install like split system air conditioning units. Usually, one in their bedroom and then one somewhere else. And the split systems, they seem to work pretty well if you're trying to heat or cool a closed off space. Our house is pretty open, so unless we put it in our bedroom, I think it would be
with the door closed.
Effective.
Yeah, because it's 3 stories to the rooftop. We have our first story, then you climb to the second story, and then you climb the third story, and we've got like a skylight where it's kind of open, a big tall ceiling. So I don't think it would really do that much good. No. And a couple of friends that have had them installed, we've noticed their walls
they bubbled up because the water that comes through the pipe creates a kind of moisture.
Yeah, so that was one thing that kind of steered me away from doing that. So we usually bundle up is what we do. So, and it can get 40 at night here.
Yeah.
So we have 2 space heaters, one that Karen and Jim gave us, and then another one that we got. And if anything, we put them in the bathroom when it's cold in the morning, taking a shower, and close the door, and or close our bedroom door. So,
to trap the heat in.
Yeah, but now we have an electric blanket and flannel sheets. All right.
Number 12.
Number 12. Basements. Houses are built above ground level so they can withstand earthquakes better than homes built with wood frames, so I'm told, which tend to shake during earthquakes and collapse. So basements, I don't think you'll really find them here in Mexico.
Yeah, not too much.
I really don't. Okay, next, composition shingles on houses.
So composition shingles don't really exist here in Mexico because largely the rooftops are flat and they're cement or cement with tile on top. So I think that's, for us, I think that's actually a plus.
And it says that, they say that it keeps it cool.
Yeah, it does.
So
keep it cooler,
it does, but remember when it gets down to 40, it keeps it very cold too.
Yeah.
But one thing that I will say about the brick and mortar houses is that when it's warm outside, if it's like low 90s or something, our house will be like 80 inside or 78 or something like that.
Yeah.
So, and you can really feel the difference when you come in.
Yeah.
So, let's see, I have another note here. It's important to keep the houses cool as much as possible and allows rainwater runoff more easily without any issues of decay occurring since it's made from a clay tile rather than shingles. So, and that was number 13. That's all we have. But we do have a note here at the bottom. The brick and mortar homes don't decay or burn. Okay.
It's recovered. Though
there can be the propane tank explosion. It's rare, but they can happen. The brick and mortar make it easy to maintain and clean, and it's resistant to insects and termites, though we will get spiders once in a while. We'll see a spider, and once in a while we'll see a roach. or two.
Yeah, but the spiders or roaches aren't going to do any real damage.
No, they're not going to do any damage like termites would
Yeah.
on the wood, right?
Yeah.
And that can be really expensive. The only real thing I think with the brick and mortar, you know, is like we were talking about, that cancer that gets in the walls.
Yeah.
That's an ongoing thing, and I think it has a lot to do with the moisture and all that. So that's just one issue that you gotta realize if you're even renting, you know, with renting, that's gonna be an ongoing issue. If you're buying, that's gonna be an ongoing issue. It's not gonna make a difference whether you're renting or buying. It's gonna be there throughout Mexico and probably throughout a lot of areas, you know, in other countries too, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
We traveled to Ecuador. I don't remember it being in Ecuador.
No, but they had Spanish. The houses that we saw, a lot of them had Spanish tiles on their roofs too. So.
Anyhow,
So.
that's it. That's all we can really think of the differences between Mexico houses versus U.S. houses. I'm sure there's more things we could probably come up with, but this is part 2 to part 1 video of Mexican home versus U.S. houses. So those are just some things to keep in mind. You know, you're not in Kansas anymore. Like I say, when you come to Mexico, it's different, and you're just going to have to go with the flow of things, the way that it works. You know, construction issues that are going to come up, that cancer like in the walls that's going to have to be repaired, maybe your windows not being sealed that well. Just a lot of stuff I think that you need to just keep in mind that can happen, you know, so.
But I mean, there's also a lot of stuff if you own a house in the
US.
United States too. I mean, you got to keep on top of any termite damage,
Roof inspections.
any mold and mildew that might be occurring in the walls, stuff like that.
And then
So,
usually get roof inspections to make sure your roof's okay.
Yeah.
You know, that the shingles aren't damaged and things like that. So it's just different. I mean, you know, you got maintenance in the US. That's just different than the maintenance in Mexico.
Exactly.
I
yeah.
think, you know,
Yeah.
but I think the cost to fix it here in Mexico is a lot cheaper
Yeah.
than it would be in Mexico.
Well, then it would be in the
I mean, than
US.
it would be in the United States.
Don't
You know.
worry, folks. I'll have her back at the home right after we're finished taping.
So is there anything else that you want to add to what we're talking about?
No, I think that about covers it for us. If you, the viewer, can think of anything you'd like us to talk about, go ahead and add it in the comment section below.
This is a nice shirt Mark's wearing, by the way, although he's got his microphone kind of in a
Yeah.
weird position. I was just commenting how nice it is. It was from Barcelona
Yeah.
in Gaudi. So, as always, from the 2 travelers in Mexico,
What she did.
bye guys.
Bye.